welcome to the Spirit Gathering teleconference for March. Today is March 19th, 2019, and my name is Laura Smith. This is an equinox gathering titled Planting Seeds for 2019. And we're so glad you've joined us. And for people listening in later as well, welcome. So we're recording the call so you can listen in at your leisure. We'll announce that number later on at the end. Okay, so tonight is what formally might be a prophecy circle and a magnetizing circle. We kind of, the way it sort of came to me, there's two kind of rounds. And in honor of the equinox, it felt significant to gather. And so I was hearing on the radio that we have a full moon within 4 hours of the equinox, which is the last supermoon of 2019. And it feels very energized. And as you may be hearing from your spiritual sources, 2019 is considered to be a very powerful year, a lot going on, a lot of changes, and leading up to 2020, which is by all accounts supposed to be really kind of a watershed year in a lot of ways. And so it certainly seems that way to me, a lot shifting around in my life, and just things that have been kind of steady state for years are kind of changing locations and, you know, colleagues and things like that. So this seems like a really nice opportunity to gather together as a clergy group in support and kind of bring our energy and fellowship skills to bear. And so we had a gathering in the January period that was kind of visioning the purpose. And so the way it kind of seems to me energetically, it's like the first quarter of the year is kind of the idea aspect before things really come into form, the kind of mental body, so to speak, or purpose of the year. And then now with the spring equinox, things are getting ready to sort of, you know, be planted in the earth and actually take on physical form, and then maybe grow and develop and come to fruition in the last part of the year. So it seems to me to be kind of a good time to check in on our creations, our manifestations, and kind of plant the seeds with intention that maybe we're a little bit more clear about or come into form a little bit more than when we started the year with that idea. So I thought we're a small group, so maybe we can open with a couple of minutes of just sharing whatever you would like to share about how the year's been going so far, what your sense of the themes or the energies are. And then we can have a prophecy circle for about 10 minutes or so and set the space and then tune into the energies. And then we can have a second round where everybody goes around and plants the seeds that they would like to magnetize, and we can energize that. So before we start to share, I'll set up the formal invitation for the Tzaddi Spirit Gathering so we can come into the sacred space. So let's take a moment now to get settled, to center ourselves, to let go of the events of this day, and begin to enter the deeper sacred space within ourselves. Now let us imagine that we are joining together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with every other person on this call right now live, and with those who may be calling in later. And we can add spirits, guides, and other energetic beings as well into our community. And now let us imagine that we are joining together in a circle with a light or flame or fire in the center. Imagine a spoke of light coming from the center of the circle to your heart, and for each person on the call tonight or listening in after. Now we are connected, sacred heart to sacred heart. Now let us set our intentions. We listen to one another with compassion and curiosity. We ask for what we need and offer what we can. We deepen our connection with one another and the divine. May this sharing serve us, our communities, and the planet. And so it is. All right. And so welcome again. So we can just open the floor to some sharing for a couple of minutes. And how's the year been? Do you already have a sense of what the themes are, how things are shaping up? Anything you'd like to share? And I can go first. So I've been sort of contemplating this a lot because it does seem to me like a very energized year, and I follow different spiritual teachers who've been kind of talking about, kind of similar themes from different directions. And indeed, it seems like there's a lot. It's a little bit like going through a river where there are different currents kind of converging in the stream, and it's choppy, and there's sort of this, kind of chaos going on of so many different movement patterns. And there's definitely good to that. There's definitely opportunity for new things and possibilities, but it's a little bit overwhelming or, kind of demanding to keep up with it. And potentially I kind of find that I'm really called to my A game of energy tools to kind of stay centered. And I know spiritual teachers such as Tom Kenyon, who I follow, kind of talks about this time with the Hathors being kind of, he calls it the chaos node, I believe. And, talks about the need to kind of stay really centered. And so at the same time, there's kind of a real deepening that, I walk around the streets of New York a lot and commute through, Penn Station to go to work. And I really try to practice the kind of energy yoga to try to harmonize all the energies. And what I've noticed is that there's almost like and other spiritual people talk about this as well, it's like almost like a polarization or a separation of the sort of quote unquote light and this quote unquote dark, and things can go either way very quickly, kind of to either extreme. And so things can kind of spiral, if I kind of lose equilibrium or people are negative on the street, things can get very extreme very fast. But if I can kind of look for the good or kind of take it to a higher dimension, I think a lot about sort of 5D, trying to, create different timelines and different flows of energy, Dubin would say, then things can kind of miraculously just shift, almost like they're jumping to another timeline or another reality level. So it's kind of fascinating, and I can't remember ever experiencing anything quite like this. And so it really does seem like we're in kind of a very special moment of time where, reality is shifting. So I'm just kind of really trying to step up to that and be very intentional about what I want to create in the next cycle. So I know that I'm focusing a lot on trying to bring forward more of my healing work and kind of create more of a structure around that, like a steady group or, private practice and so on. And so I'm trying to really skillfully navigate that. So that's what I would share, and I'll put down the talking stick.
This is Nancy. I could share now.
Great. Thank
you. I'll pick up the talking stick. The beginning of 2019, I don't recall that I had any resolutions for the new year or particular goals. I may have, but may have forgotten them in the wake of some recent happenings. About 3 weeks ago, I was sick with a cold and cough and so on, and I didn't think too much about it. My husband had the same thing, and grandkids had strep throat, and there's a lot of stuff going around. But about 2 weeks ago, on a Sunday night, I suddenly got worse, and I had the feeling that I might not make it through to the next day if I didn't get major help. And I was on the second floor because I was sick. We were supposed to babysit for our grandkids over the weekend to help one of our kids and his wife out. They needed R&R, so they had gone out of town. And Ted was on the third floor with one of the youngest, a 2-year-old. And that's when I had this sense that I wasn't sure what was happening physically, but that I needed sort of extreme help. And fortunately, he came downstairs, just happened to, because my voice wouldn't have carried to where he could have heard me. And he called our oldest daughter, who's a doctor in Denver, and she said, "Take Mom to the hospital immediately." And then our son, who we were babysitting for, who's a nurse, bad news travels fast, and so he suddenly called and said, "Don't take her yourself. Call an ambulance. Call 911. So that began an amazing journey of the especially last 2 weeks, where I went to the ER and I came home the next day and I had a whole bunch of things, flu, dehydration, it turned to pneumonia, kind of all a confluence of illnesses. And I'm rarely ever sick, and I've never been to the hospital. So it was very unusual in my life to have this sudden kind of debility. And also where I needed to be extremely quiet. I was contagious, so I couldn't really see anyone. It was like being in a hermitage for the last 2 weeks. And it was scary at first, especially the trip to the hospital, so unexpected. But I have to say that in the last 2 weeks, I have gained a real sense of what needed to fall away with the end of winter, as if part of the winter in myself, tasks that have kind of outlived their time needed to drop off. and I needed to, and had the opportunity, and I'm still having it because I'm still not quite back to work, have the opportunity for things to shift inwardly and outwardly. And so, one of the few things I've been doing during this time physically is planting seeds. I've got a big garden and grow medicinal herbs, and some of the early things that can be planted now, I've planted and pruned a few apple trees at a low level that I could manage, and began a new recommitment to that, to everything having to do with the earth and nature. And at the same time, reconnecting with shamanism. I've been combining that with, more recently in the last 10 years or so, a Franciscan community that's in our neighborhood. And so I've been moving away from that orientation and back to more of a nature-centered spirituality, but including teachings of the Christ and the Buddha and others. But learning from nature itself, not just about the garden, but about many other things, and coming to experience the nature in my yard here in the city as part of my family, the certain trees and flowers and animals. So the other thing is oil painting, trying to paint nature. I've painted a lot of my life, but more abstractly, and now I feel this longing to express my love for nature and just the inspiration it brings me just to look out the window and see the sun on the trees. So I've been able to do that during this time of illness, work on a number of landscape paintings, and I feel that these are the seeds for my year, and that I will work with my clients who come for spiritual direction and energy work in a new way, a fresh way, from a deeper place. But we'll see what happens. That's pretty much where I'm at. And I will pass the healing stick or the talking stick back to Julie or whoever would like to pick it up.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
And I will pick up the stick. At the beginning of this year, I set an intention to find community because I was feeling like I just wanted to be with people more. I was feeling pretty isolated. And I have several different groups that have sort of that have popped up. I started a Sangha with two other women for women, and we had our second meeting a couple weeks ago, and 11 women came, and we meet for 3 hours, and we meditate, and we talk about our lives, and it's really lovely. And then at the same time, I've done Vipassana, the 10-day retreats with Goenka teaching, and the New York City has a Vipassana association, and there's just been a recent sort of activity in New Jersey. There's a few assistant teachers that live here, and they've been organizing things. So a couple of months ago, there was a one-day sit, and I went to that, and then these two different people at the end stood up and said, we're hosting sits in our homes. And this one couple, every Sunday, they have 2 one-hour sits, and then someone cooks and you sit down and you have a meal afterwards, and everyone's Indian except for me, and I feel like I've been taken under the wing of these people. They're just lovely, but I've been really loving I feel like when I sit down with a lot of other people who have very deep practices, that I feel like I'm held in place and I'm able to go deeper than I usually go in my daily practice by myself. So I feel like they're my new community. And the greatest thing is 2 weeks ago we're eating lunch and they all start talking, and we were talking about, enlightenment, clinging and aversion, like all this stuff. And I'm thinking, I never get to talk about this stuff with other people. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like this group of people are like my people. And they're deeply committed. So that's been kind of interesting. And I'm still looking for more community. And it's just people of like mind where I can share sort of more deeply about who I am and what I'm experiencing. So I feel like that's some of the seeds that I want to keep planting. And then the other big focus of my life is I have this consulting business, and I teach mindfulness in business and in hospitals. And I feel like I've been hesitating at putting myself out into the world. And I've been really working on this for the last couple of months, just really really being present with my hesitation. What I find is I have a hard time asking anyone for help, and I have a hard time promoting the kind of work that I do. And I feel like you were saying, Laura, about this, like 5D, I feel like things could all shift overnight. Like I feel like there's so much potential in the air and so much possibility, and that I think there's a lot of change going on under the surface of everything, and I feel like I'm riding that wave. So I think the big thing for this year is being able to allow myself to be seen and heard and appreciated for what I have to offer, because I know I have a whole lot of really interesting experience that I've brought together in a really cool way, and that I can really benefit people. But it's just not holding back and just throwing myself out into the world. And ultimately, I want to be of service. So it's all about let me be of service in the best way that I can. And then the third theme, which is really interesting, is I started out in 1984 when I graduated from college in domestic violence. I was a counselor in a domestic violence program, and then I went to law school and represented battered women when I got out. And I left that many, many years ago. But I just reconnected with a domestic violence and sexual assault program, and I'm going to be doing like a pretty immersive mindfulness and resilience program with all of the staff of this program or this organization. And the executive director has a deep mindfulness practice, so she totally gets what I'm trying to create, and she's totally supportive. So there's something, I think it's really interesting that I've come full circle back to domestic violence in a way that I never imagined that I would. So that's me. I'm putting the stick down.
Oh, thank you for sharing. So let's take a moment to receive all of that. All right, and so what came to me as I was kind of holding the space for the gathering tonight was for us to have a so-called prophecy circle where we, using our energy skills, we come into a circle and set the space and then receive or download or tune in, whatever word you like, the energies of the equinox and what the sun and the earth and the world of nature might be telling us or downloading us with in this energy of the equinox. So does that sound like a good way to proceed? We could spend about 10 minutes doing that and then have a little time to energize intentions. Or if you would like to modify that in any way, we're open, but that was my idea.
Sounds interesting.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. It feels like there's some powerful energy coming through as we start here. All right, great. So let's take a moment and set our space using whatever tools of energy you are familiar with. Let's come into a configuration circle, bringing in our guides, the other members who are here energetically. And I will call out the time. We can sit in silence, and I'll call out the time in about 8 minutes or so. So we can go into the silence now and see what speaks to us, see what's coming through. All right. And finding your way back to the circle. Take a moment to arrive. And we can share for a minute or two what we found, anything that you would like to report or express about what you perceived. And whenever you're ready, you can share.
Well, I'll pick up the talking stick and share.
Great.
I asked about the vernal equinox, and it's the meaning of this sacred time. And I was given some words to share. So if I can read my own writing, I'll begin. This vernal equinox is about life, protecting life and earth and all creatures, taking a giant leap for some to realize we are truly one family, all the relations, all my relations. This shift is happening often with human beings. What you call a tragedy brings about this new awareness of the oneness, the sacredness of all life. Tomorrow, on the equinox, align yourself with love for all. Say inwardly, as you move through your day, I love all. And say this from your sacred heart. Send this from your sacred heart to every being you encounter or whoever comes to mind, who you see on the street, or a red-tailed hawk in flight, a crocus that survived the hailstorm, and ones next to it who didn't. And yes, even the heads of governments who you may have disagreements with, to them say, I love all, and direct a stream of love to them and to yourselves. And that's where it ended when we finished the time.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and share, Laura. What I got was similar in quite a few ways to those themes. I felt as we started to go into the space, I felt a very powerful kind of download, just a sense of energy kind of coming down. And I flashed on some of the political leaders, and it seemed to kind of mean that, that society or, the social changes are part of the mix. And then I got an image of, like in the center column of light, there was this image of a kind of a very uprising energy, very kind of light and kind of moving upward, and it turned into the image of this bouquet of roses. and beautiful kind of blooms, like buds that were just kind of opening, and many, many kind of long-stemmed roses in a bundle, and there were little hands kind of contributing roses, kind of coming in from the outside and adding a rose, and then some hands were taking away other roses, and the idea was that this was sort of like the people, but we were all making this beautiful bouquet of roses. And so, again, it was the sense of like community or creating a society that's based on love and kind of this sense of unity in that way. And then the energy of the moon came in, and it was like a very kind of feminine, kind of benevolent female presence, just kind of overwatching everything. And that was my image. So I'll put down the talking stick.
So I'll pick up the stick. I got 2 words, and I got them over and over again. So they were unfurl and blossom. And the image I got for the unfurling was like as if a flag had been rolled up and then like released in the wind. So it sort of unfurled and then blew sideways. And it was like this long, thin flag. And then the image I got for blossoming was, I don't know the name of this flower, and I know flowers pretty well. It was like shaped like almost like a peony, but with very different petals, sort of little small petals, but really like a really big blossom that was just sort of slowly opening and blossoming. And that's what I got.
Right, thank you. Beautiful. All right. So there's a lot of overlap in the energies, the themes there. Great. So we can do a round of energizing if you would like, and we have time for maybe about 2 minutes per person, as we can kind of honor the time container. So we can go around and each person can kind of state their intention, what you would like the group to magnetize or send energy to, and then we can spend about 2 minutes energizing each person's intention. So whoever would like to begin, state your intention.
This is Nancy. I could begin.
Great.
I'll pick up the talking stick. I would like the group to send energy to my new learning and practicing the gift of shamanic knowing and aligning with nature for the good of all. And also in my, that includes my work with clients as well, and really has no limit. And also my work with landscape painting, with expressing the beauty, the luminosity of nature, the gift all around us every day. That would be helpful too.
Wonderful. All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we can start. I'll start the time now, and I'll call out 2 minutes. All right, and that's the 2 minutes. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. And whoever would like to go next.
I'll go. So what I would like energized is that I am of service to those who need my service, and that I easily, effortlessly, and joyfully connect with people and with the perfect clients, and that in this, the image I had was that my business and myself become self-exciting and highly magnetic, so that people are really attracted to what I have to offer, and that I'm able to make a living that feels comfortable and nourishing to me and my family. And I'd also like to energize a deepening and continuing of community in my life, and attracting the right people into my communities and into relationship with me. And I'd also like joy and peace and contentment in my family.
Wonderful. All right, great. So we'll start the time now. All right, and that's 2 minutes. Thank you. All right, and so what I would like to magnetize is my healing practice. I work at a spa and teach at a university, but I've been kind of growing my private practice and doing kind of the work that I really want to be doing in terms of more kind of out of the box modalities with energy work and so on. And I've been renting space for many years, actually a couple of days a week, at a location that was really great location right near Central Park and so on. But the building has been bought by New York or international developers, and they're actually tearing the building down. It's kind of a New York story. But the good news is my landlord, who runs a kind of a holistic healing practice, and we rent space from her, she's moving to another space that's in Midtown on 46th and 6th, which should be, good location. And she's renovating I believe it's the penthouse of the building to make like a center, kind of an upgrade of the current center. So I'm moving along with her. So it feels like a kind of a stepping up moment where it's an opportunity, but I'm kind of called to really be on my A game, or, take things a little bit farther in terms of marketing and putting myself out there and, doing a website and all that kind of business building stuff. So that's what I would like to magnetize, is that harmonious upgrade of my private practice, and then being magnetic to clients who I would be able to serve. And we'll start the time now. All right, and that's time. Great, thank you. All right, wonderful. So that brings us to the end of our time container for tonight. So I will kind of move to complete the space here. Is there anything anyone else would like to say before we close for tonight?
I would just like to say that the image I got for this building that you're moving into is like a fountain coming from sort of the street level up through the building and then sort of flowing out over and out over the top of the building. And that just kept coming to me while we were energizing your vision.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's supposed to be right in between Bryant Park and Rockefeller Center, so it should be interesting.
I've taught mindfulness at Salesforce, which is on the corner of 42nd and 6th across from, it's above Whole Foods. But they're the people, I was thinking if you could get one client from Salesforce, you might get a lot because they're pretty open-minded there. But it's a great place. It's a great area.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. All right, great. Okay, so in honor of time, thank you for joining us for this Spirit Gathering teleconference. The call may be archived as an MP3 at www.tzaddi.org. Phone access to the recording of this call is available until next month's call. For playback of the recording, dial 712-432-1085, access code 990322#. We hope you'll join us for our next Spirit Gathering on Tuesday, April 16th. These calls are hosted by Tzaddi, an interspiritual metaphysical organization founded in California in 1964. Tzaddi welcomes, nurtures, and supports people in celebrating and more directly experiencing their relationship with the loving presence of the divine. Our programs are open to people of any race, color, or national or ethnic origin. Visit www.tzaddi.org to learn more. We will now close with thanks and a blessing. Thanks to Tzaddi founders Amy Keyes and Dorothy Blackmere. Thanks to all of you who have been a part of our community tonight. And thanks to the divine who supports us always, even when we are not aware of it. And I have a short poem as a blessing to read, which is one of my favorites. It's by William Stafford from a book, You Must Revise Your Life. He was a teacher of writing. So the poem goes, your exact errors make a music that nobody hears. Your straying feet find the great dance, walking alone. And you live on a world where stumbling always leads home. Year after year fits over your face. When there was youth, your talent was youth. Later, you find your way by touch, where moss redeems the stone. And you discover where music begins before it makes any sound. Far in the mountains, where canyons go, still as the always falling, ever new flakes of snow. Okay, great. And before we close, I just want to mention to you and anyone who's listening, we are in the process of kind of re-energizing and re-envisioning the spirit gatherings. And so we would love to, if you have interest or ideas about what you would like to see in terms of programming, or if you would like to lead a spirit gathering, or it could be around a theme or kind of a mini workshop or meditation, we would be delighted to talk with you about that and have that opportunity. So I'll throw that out there. And so we can end here, and thank you very much. It was very nice to share this time with you, and happy equinox.